Hello, everyone. I believe we are live now. So, welcome to another live session from Investing with the Difference. So, today, again, we are going to start with an introduction. And as you know, this is our landing page, Investing with the Difference. We do have some links for you if you are willing to join our Facebook community as well as the Telegram channel. We are getting some participation, a lot of nice discussions happening, and do join us there. And if you are interested in building more and more community discussions and also participating in helping each other and learning more about EOS. Then now one more important thing before I start rest of the session. We just recently uploaded within today a very important video. A lot of people have been asking how to create an account, and I think this is something which a lot of people were struggling with, especially the newbies. So this is a very important video for anybody who doesn't have an EOS account, who was not on Genesis Snapshot. I think some of them are buying the EOS now, or some of them who never used their own tokens. They always had the tokens on exchanges. So you can always watch it. So right now, after this live session, of course, because I think we just uploaded it a few minutes back while the team was working on it. So I think I would say this is going to be a very important video for you, along with the, let me look at all other videos. It shows only a few, along with the wallet setup, of course. So if you, so this is the wallet setup video. That is the Greymass wallet. And along with this video, I think this EOS account creation will really help a lot of newbies to get into the ecosystem. And we wanted to make sure that this is uploaded. We have tried to make it as simple as possible. We have tried to make it fully explanatory in itself, that anybody can do it themselves. Now the key thing is, we have highlighted one of the tools which is available now, where you do not even have to send EOS to anybody else, but to a smart contract which creates an account for you. And that's a great tool created by My EOS Kit, which is by EOS Asia. And I think this is a great thing to get started with. So do use this tool if you are looking to create more accounts, even if you don't have, if you already have one account. But for newbies, I think this is very important to follow. So I think this is great. Now let's start with, first of all, before we jump into more EOS details, let's look at the market. So I'm sure a lot of people are tracking this. It's an amazing move. The momentum is continuing to build, and we have now settled above $8,200 in last few hours. This is great. I think, as I said, I was still hoping that it will consolidate a bit before it moves up, but it is still a good breakout from this downward trend line. And while I was expecting this breakout in a few days, it happened too early. And this shows the momentum. This shows how the market is really getting a lot of new money. And but as you have, if you're following some of the discussions we are having on Facebook or on Telegram channel, so the key thing I wanted to talk about is above 8,200 or 8,000. If it remains above $8,000, the rest of the market, which was suffering, the altcoins which are suffering, they will start recovering. Now let's look at where we are. And I think a lot of them are getting into green now. This is exactly what I was talking about. So till we were not able to cross this resistance levels of 77.80 to 79.20, there were a lot of skepticism in the market. And now that we have broken out of this, it is now a confirmation of this reversal pattern. So even though we had a reverse head and shoulder, a lot of times we have formed a reverse head and shoulder. Last time it happened, it played out very nicely. We went all the way to $10,000, and it's almost exactly playing out. And now I think the biggest resistance area is the 200-day moving average, which is this red line, and that is 86.80. That is the area right now. I would say if it goes in another day or so, but it is dipping. So I would say next $300 to $400 is going to be crucial, whether we again hit resistance at this 200-day moving average. And if we end up breaking out of this, then I think $10,000 is within sights. So this is, I think, going to be the biggest test for this move. But what is encouraging is the rest of the market is now gaining ground and started to move up. And this is going to be very critical of how do we go from here. So again, Nobody knows what's going to happen. This is all about how you play around, how you look at these critical levels, and if you're a trader, you can trade these levels. Still, there are a lot of support levels now. I think this resistance which broke out, this will act as a support now around $7,900, and definitely I don't want us to move below that to sustain this, but there is definitely a pullback due because it has been moving too fast, and this is a risky move if you are trading Bitcoin. But in longer term time frame, I think this gives a lot of good momentum to the Bitcoin price, and especially this breakout which I'm seeing now, it at least tells me that this bottom is in for medium term. For long term, I would be more confident when we move above this 200-day moving average. So this is the Bitcoin. I think it is giving a lot of optimism to people. I'm sure a lot of smart money is coming in here because people were very pessimistic and still it was going up. And usually the dumb money follows. And if we end up crossing this 200-day moving average, I'm sure a lot of people will start jumping in, and we can see this price go up to super fast. So I think overall, EOS is kind of has been struggling along with all altcoins. Today it is slightly improved, $8.50 or so, and we hope that people start to differentiate the quality projects from rest of the market. And at some point, when we see more and more applications coming on EOS, we will see this moving up. Now let us look at some other aspects. So one of the hot discussion is RAM. I see already some comments from people. What is happening on RAM? So the RAM prices are going down, and as you know, that the proposal to add RAM is being discussed, and that is going to be a dampener for the RAM prices. As we all of us know that RAM is not really being used. So RAM is like it's mostly high because of speculators, and there's a good chance now that speculators will start exiting because the RAM is going to be increased per block based on the new code changes which were delivered by uh, block.1. I think maybe it will stabilize it below, but I'm sure as more and more dApps come in, there will be demand for RAM. It will be with the constant addition and a slow trickle increase of RAM, and with the consumption of RAM, with more and more apps coming, it will balance out at some stage. And now the block producers have a tool to increase RAM as needed, and maybe they can increase more if the prices go up too high, and that is a good sign for EOS. I think it's a good sign for new developers who are concerned about the spiking prices of RAM. And as we covered in another video, I think the CPU prices are going up, which is not a bad sign because CPU really doesn't cost you. It only you need EOS to stake to use CPU, and it gets refreshed every 3 days. But if you're really using for good purposes, you need to stake more tokens, and this is exactly why EOS token price will go up. So this is actually good for EOS that the CPU prices are going up. That means you need to now really reserve bandwidth, or you really reserve the CPU to make transactions, because what is happening is a lot more people are testing right now, and that's what really caused this spike, especially some of the stress testing done by Block Twitter and some airdrops which really got um, things going. All right, so this is some of the items I think which everybody should be tracking. Now let me look at some of the tools, especially there's a new block explorer, which is a blocks.io. This is a tool from EOS Cafe and Hong Kong EOS. And this is pretty nice. I think they have a pretty good format, a lot of information into a single page. One thing which I think a good information which I did not see in other tools was how many new accounts are created. So if you remember, on Genesis Snapshot, we had around 163,000 or 164,000 accounts. So as you can see, already EOS accounts are getting created at a very fast pace, and this is something which is a great sign. And other than that, of course, we are talking about 7.5 million blocks which have been produced. It's going very stable. The performance is continuously increasing. This tool also lists a lot of tokens, the airdrops which are coming. So do make use of this tool. Let's look at the block producers. I think this is one of the things we always talk about. So what are the big changes here? So Bitfinex is again on the top, and all these block producers, I think, which are very strong, they are continuously getting good votes. Huobi and ZB, these are exchanges in addition to Bitfinex. Not as good as Bitfinex, but I think these are again going in the top 7 now. What else is we don't have any surprises. This is the same set of people. I think this EOS Laomao is a surprise because this is something which came up recently. They're getting a lot of votes. Would definitely start looking into them and understand whether we should consider them or whether they are good for the system. We have not really looked into them a lot. Most of the others are the same, which we have been looking into. Definitely, we are not happy with EOS Bixin Boot. We couldn't find much information about them. We are going to spend more time into that. So, most of the others, I think there are a lot of solid block producers here. Cipher Glass is, as we talk about, they have been going up and down in top 21. Definitely, we would like to see more block producers who are contributing, like Greymass and some others. I'm glad to see some of the unknown block producers like EOS Fly to Mars are going down and getting voted out, at least not in the producing blocks list. And I think there's going to be continuous movement. I think more and more votes are getting in. We see that now it is almost at 34% votes, which is good for the ecosystem, and we keep looking at more and more people coming in. Within our proxy, now we have got 197 people, so that is a great sign. We have reached a total EOS of 717,000, and which is a good level where we can make an impact. But of course, as I said, we always recommend people to vote themselves. Keep looking into various block producers and make sure that you're contributing. But if you think that you don't have time or you don't know whom to vote for, you can always use our proxy. And again, as I said, going back to our people who have been asking how to set proxy, if you watch this video of setting up the wallet fully, you will see very clear instruction of how to do that. And I will keep going back to this these two videos, I think, because these are most useful, especially if you're not been if you're keeping your tokens on exchanges. So these are some of the things I just wanted to reflect on before we start taking questions. So let's have a quick look at what are the questions going around right now. Okay, so there's a question about what about the proposition to receive reward from RAM fee profit pool for staking tokens. Actually, it's a great proposal. I think Dan Larimer talked about it. In fact, I had a few exchanges with him on some of the Telegram channel exactly about this quite a few days back, before even he proposed this officially. I would say this is a great idea because right now, a lot of people ask, like even when we are interacting with the community, a lot of people are asking, what do I gain for staking? While voting, yes, is like people want to vote, but you have to keep your tokens staked. While I always explain that this gives you a safety. When you're staking your tokens, it increases the weight of the vote, and you are getting a safety that nobody can withdraw that. But that also is a restriction for people who want to trade, who want to keep their tokens liquid, and they don't have any real benefit of it. Now, with the proposal to get rewarded for staking your tokens, that's a pretty good idea because that will keep your tokens staked. More and more people will be encouraged to stake. It will increase the voting participation. It will make the ecosystem healthy. Plus, it will remove a lot of tokens from circulation, resulting in a better EOS price. And remember that EOS stake tokens define what is the utility of the network. So if you are staking the token, you can really use it. Maybe you can lease it as the more and more leasing platform come into picture. So people has to learn the advantage of staking. And if you initially give them a benefit by sharing tokens, by sharing rewards, I think it's a great idea. Now, this is again has to be defined how exactly it is going to work out. Right now, I think it is not really up for voting yet. So let's see how that goes. So there is another question: where do you stake your EOS to get highest vote weight? So first of all, let me clarify. For RAM, you don't stake it. For RAM, you spend your EOS and you buy RAM. Of course, you can sell it and get your EOS back. So let's go back to the resource. So these are the three resources on EOS. For network and CPU, These two are reusable resources. That means you can this these are mostly time shared, and that depends on how many tokens you own and stake. The RAM is a persistent memory. It cannot be shared. Once you reserve a RAM, it is only yours and it is associated with your account. So for RAM, you don't stake your tokens, you buy it and you lose that EOS, but you get RAM in your account, which is a commodity, and you can always sell it and get your EOS back. Now, the question about whether you should stake on network or CPU, it depends on your usage. If you're doing a lot of transactions, that means you need CPU because you need to spend time. So this is the how many EOS per millisecond. Millisecond means the time taken to send your transaction per day. And depending on how many transactions you're doing, based on what dapps you're using, based on how many transfers you're doing, you need to increase the CPU. Now, network bandwidth is more about how much data you're sending. So for any typical transaction, there is some data, and as you attach more and more data, for example, when you're voting, you send a lot of data because you're sending the names of 30 block producers. Again, it is not a lot, but more than your usual token transfer. But some people may be doing much bigger activities, like maybe you're sending some your maybe, I don't know, the apps which are coming up, like for example Monster EOS. Maybe you are uploading something to the blockchain or a DApp which is asking you to upload some data. That will increase your network usage. Initially, if you don't have any clue and if you have enough tokens, we would recommend 50-50, but you can monitor your usage. For example, let's say EOS Flare site, which is a great tool to look at your account. It will show you how much of your CPU is used. For example, with investing with a difference account, we have 15 EOS in CPU and 15 in bandwidth. You can monitor how much of it is used. So as you can see, our CPU is used little more than our bandwidth. So if we are about to go higher in CPU usage, we can always take more CPU and reduce it in the bandwidth. So that is one way to define how much you should stake in CPU and bandwidth. And as I said, your memory can be tracked here. So depending on how much RAM you bought, your EOS will reduce and you will get into the RAM. So I hope this clarifies these questions. It was a good question. I think a lot of people don't understand how EOS works. So this is something everybody should know. What else we are looking at? Is there any indication that Treasure will support EOS? Right now, we haven't seen a working prototype for it. Some people are already working on Ledger Nano. I think Treasure is not ideal for EOS or even Ledger Nano because they are very simple cold storage devices. EOS needs you to stake, unstake, and do a lot of other exercises like voting. So we are hoping that there will be a better hardware wallet. Um, as Dan Larimer has told us that they're working on iOS based wallet, which is not exactly a hardware wallet, but as long as your keys are not exposed, they are safely stored in a hardware device. It's not a bad idea. That can be a pretty safe way with secured with biometrics, with your fingerprints or your face detect, and that is pretty good way of implementing hardware wallet, which is much more useful. But I think if you are just trying to keep your tokens safe, definitely Treasure or Ledger Nano will be a good idea if you're not interacting with blockchain. And that is something we haven't seen a final productized version, but we have seen some prototypes for Ledger Nano, and I think definitely that will be first before Treasure supports it. There's another question about would it be classified as dividends? So I think it is a tricky question. Means I'm not an expert on the legal matters of it, but what I can say is that EOS is clearly a utility token. The way they have defined it, because you're using the token to utilize the network, and you're paying back in those tokens. So I'm sure Block.one will review it. They have the resources to define acceptable model. But yeah, of course, all these regulatory things are very difficult to guess how they play out. Which one of your previous video explained how to stake? I think the wallet video should show you. If you're using Greymas wallet, I think it's very easy. I don't think you need a video to explain this. If you just go to stake and unstake tokens, it is self-explanatory, so you should be able to figure it out yourself. Okay, so what else you have? So where can I go for help with my Scatter wallet, having a hard time creating an account. We just did a video, as I explained at the start of this video, that we have uploaded another video for creating a new account. For Scatter, I think you should just search NS James videos on YouTube. He's the creator of Scatter, and he has done a lot of videos of explaining how to use it. But I think if you're just looking for creating an account, you don't really have to go and use Scatter. You can simply send tokens from an exchange. And we just uploaded a video as I highlighted here. So this is the latest video which we have, EOS account creation all by yourself. And so this is something you should definitely consider watching. And this is a great way of creating an account yourself. Okay, so there's another question about the airdrops. Have you received EDNA? Also, I received Black. Yes, so I think these two airdrops came in recently, and both of them are interesting projects. So I don't think I want to go into that right now. Let us spend some time additionally for DApps, and definitely we will do more videos on those. Um, in Simple EOS wallet, I think a lot of people are reporting to us. As I mentioned many times in our videos, we are not using Simple EOS wallets in our team. We like Greymass much more. A lot of people in the community are reporting issues with Simple EOS, and definitely you can join our Facebook channel as well as Telegram. I'm sure somebody will be able to help you, because we are trying to build a community where people help each other. But I think Simple EOS is struggling with some basic issues, and you need to work with, maybe update your app where they may have fixed the issues. But yes, there was a concern that some transactions were missing in those. What else, guys? So let me quickly look at what are the other questions here. Do you think the new Steemit on EOS will keep the same name? I don't think it will keep the same name. Definitely, it will be something different, because Steemit is no longer a project which is owned by Block.one. First of all, it was never owned by Block.one. It was a Dan Larry, and he has moved out and now he's part of Block.one. So they will definitely create a new name and new social media kind of a platform. And it is just being termed as Steemit 2.0, because that's how it was discussed on Telegram channels. And let's see how that goes. But I'm just hoping, as I've talked in my previous videos, I'm hoping that it is more than Steemit, because Steemit is very limited platform. It is mainly a blogging site. It is not a modern day social media, which is anywhere close to what Facebook can do, and very lot of other features which are mobile friendly and so on. So I'm hoping that the next version, whatever Block.one is working on, is going to be more competitive with the mainstream social media platforms. Then there's another question, why it is important to have a public address and an active address when you set up an account, when both can be looked up by anybody with an account name and a block explorer. So I think public key and private key, those are the typical crypto way of accessing your account. So the keys in EOS work very differently. Your username is unique, and that's what you mostly use to send and receive tokens. The keys are a way of managing those accounts, and that is very similar to any other token. But the key part about EOS is that you can have various level of permissions. Again, for this you need to really go into a lot more details. So if you go into the accounts document, this is the part of the white paper. And if you go to the account section, if you're really interested, you should read how these permissions work. And it's very interesting. It allows you to recover your tokens when you lose them, especially if somebody hacks into your keys. So I don't want to go into these details, because I think very few people are technical enough to understand all this. But all this information is the best available in the white paper, and you can always go to this white paper on EOS documentation, and you can read all about it. Now, why it is good is because the way accounts work in EOS is that you can give, like, you can have various hierarchical permissions. So let me show you one of the pictures. So you have owner key, you have active key, and you can assign it a various level of hierarchical permissions on what a particular key can do. And this gives you a very good way of managing the blockchain and the dApps. And I hope at some point somebody will come up with a easier explanation, because right now this needs a lot of technical details to be understood about how this hierarchical permissions work. And an average token holder is not going to be able to understand it easily. But I think this is the best explanation I could found is in the white paper, so that I would recommend everybody to read it if you are really interested in all the details of why there are multiple keys, why there is a lot of permission systems. For default right now, I think there's a single key everybody has, which is same as owner and active. And I think this is one of the most important feature, like how this key management, if you can, especially the recovery of stolen keys, this is a very important feature which is not there in any other blockchain. And I hope that this can be made simpler. To be frank, we tried to go around these details and tried to come up with a plan to do a video on it, but then by the time we could put up the material, we realized it's too complicated for an average token holder to understand, and we are not going to be able to do any better job than what the white paper is explaining. So we just recommend everybody to just go and read this section of the white paper. All right, so what other questions we are talking about here? So let's see. Genius, is it IO? Is it fake or real? I don't think we have heard about it. We will look into it. I don't have any idea about it. Why are altcoins tied to BTC other than needing to use BTC ETH to trade by? Trying to understand why when BTC crashes, so do all the alts. I think this is more of a market sentiment. If you look at in stock markets, what happens? Like when the market is down one day, even the blue chip stocks fall. All the mid caps and smaller caps also fall. It's not unique to cryptos, but yes, it is much more the case for cryptos, because it was driven by retail market. So when the retail investors do buy and sell, they sell on sentiment, not on fundamentals. And that is why I think this will start getting less and less correlated. So if you see right now, the Bitcoin has gone up very fast from 6,300 to 8,300, while most of the other coins, they are struggling. They have, if you look at this chart here in coin market cap, Bitcoin has this almost exponential move in last few days, almost 2 to 3 days, and most of the others are almost at the same level as they were earlier. And this is one sign of it is getting decorrelated. And what happens there, because maybe there's a lot of institutional buying happening here, and maybe there are new people who are coming in who don't know altcoins, because altcoins are much more complex for people to understand. Bitcoin is a big brand, and everybody understands Bitcoin, even if they have never done any trading before. So it's easier to get into Bitcoin. There are a lot more pairs available, like with the dollar, with euro, with every country has an exchange where you can buy Bitcoin. The other pairs are not always available, and people maybe are skeptical of them. So these are many reasons why I think already we are seeing a like correlation is going down. And as more and more institutional money comes in, you will see that some coins who are fundamentally better or they have better prospects will start going up, versus others will go down. So this is bound to happen in long run, but in short term they're tied together because of the sentimental value, where people just get scared and they just start selling. And most of it is driven by social media. If you go to various Facebook groups, Telegram groups, um, people talk about this, that Bitcoin is falling, or let's sell all the alts. It's based on historical performance. Everything has gone together up and down, and that's why people just try to trade based on those sentiments. And it can only be decorrelated once we have more and more smart investors coming in. Smart money knows how to differentiate between a good company versus a bad, and they will start differentiating good coins, and automatically market will go up. That's my view. Of course, I can be wrong, but I understand people are trying to trade around it here, and try to make sense out of it. Trading, and this is more of a speculation, and there is no real fundamental analysis when all the coins are going up and down. So what are the other questions, guys? So please keep going. I think we have pretty good set of people like asking questions here. So I think overall, I don't have much more content. I think we have uploaded a lot of good videos recently. So if you have any questions about specific videos, please let us know. Our goal is to make sure that everybody understand what is going on in EOS, how do you participate in it, and as I keep highlighting, the if you, for the good of the ecosystem, the biggest part is that you stake your tokens, and you do vote. And we do want to, I think as of now the blockchain is very healthy, but one thing which people don't understand, let me go show you. So some of these block producers like ZB and Huobi, they are in the top just based on a few big whales. And earlier I questioned why they are not voting for other block producers, which are there were some of the whales are only voting for one or two block producers. To be frank, this is actually not a bad thing, because if those whales are just voting to bring these people up, if they are big enough, they can actually select all the 21. And the same thing we talked about block.1, because if they vote right now, they will overshadow the highest vote receiver. So they can actually handpick by using their 100 million tokens. They can handpick all the 21 block producers, and that is more like a centralization. Right now, you are seeing more and more community driven block producers who have not been supported by whales. For example, EOS DAC is definitely not supported by whales. Yeah, and there are many of these people like EOS New York, EOS Authority. I see EOS Authority actually having the maximum number of voters, while they are number 8 in terms of number of votes, in terms of number of EOS, but they have one of the highest number of voters. And that is because they have done so much for the community. They have been helping with the people who lost their private keys, people who did not have private keys. They created all these great tools, the alerts, and that is how they have got the community support. And so it's pretty fair system right now. I think a lot of people are getting voted based on their work in the community rather than just whale votes. And yes, there are some bad elements which we don't know yet, because most of them are just taking rewards. They're not contributing, and we will keep tracking them and recommending how to we can boot them out. One example is, as I said, EOS Fly to Mars is already gone down because they did not have support for enough whales who can keep them in top 21. And similarly, there are some others questionable block producers. They are going down as the voting is increasing. So that is a great sign. And I think as it goes up more and more, we should see more and more good block producers in the top. I think I'm getting this question again. My price prediction for EOS. So I don't speculate here because it can be taken it wrongly. I don't want to be an advisor for you to buy and sell. What I can tell you is that EOS is at a very low level right now. In terms of the value it creates, I think in terms of the platform they're building, a market cap of 7.5 billion is nothing. And if you compare it with Ethereum, we did some videos on why EOS is way more valuable than Ethereum. And even in a down market, Ethereum is still at a $48 billion market cap. I would say that EOS can easily beat Ethereum market cap by end of 2019, because we have enough time for building great apps in next 15 to 16 months. And I hope by end of 2019, it will have proven enough. And most of the people who are developing apps should be developing on EOS, not on Ethereum. And that itself should give us a much higher valuation than Ethereum, based on the usage of the system. And as we do, more and more EOS will be staked just by the fundamentals of supply and demand. You will have more and more demand for EOS, just for staking, for using the platform. And if the proposals to reward people to stake tokens goes through, that will create another set of locking of tokens. The long-term investors will keep the tokens staked, and less liquidity in the market. And RAM fee already is generating enough EOS to make sure that reduces the inflation. And even the inflation itself is 1% for block producer pay, which is not a huge amount. And I don't know how much of the worker proposals will go through, and how much of that additional 4% inflation which is being targeted is really needed. So all those things will be discussed, I think, at some point. It's still a long way for EOS to set up a good model and to understand what the token dynamics will look like in terms of like token economy. But I think as more and more dApps come in, we will automatically see the value going up. All right. So what else, guys? Can you say what do you think about the idea of changing voting mechanism to everyone must vote for at least 15 block producers? I think it is not easy to implement such things, because when you're talking about democracies, you don't want to force people to vote something. It's more about encouraging people to vote 15. What if a whale who is owning millions and millions of token, they end up voting for 15? it's not going to be great for the community because they can actually make a big impact. So they are actually right now the whales are playing fair. Even though they're interested in promoting one or two big block producers, they are not voting for others because they are not even researching anything. They don't care about the community, but at least they are not negatively impacting the good block producers who are getting the community votes. So unless the total voting EOS, that staked EOS, goes above 50%, I would not say that making it mandatory is a good idea. It can actually backfire, and you can have more and more whale supported block producers in the top, because just like a whale can choose one or two block producers, they can choose all 21 because their votes, they can vote up to 30 block producers. So I'm not really in favor of a mandatory 15 block producer vote. I would say it is more about promoting wider and wider people to vote, and hopefully 50% people vote. That by that time, even above 40%, I think in last 2 or 3% increase, because the whale votes are still pretty much in defined already. I don't think a lot of whales are buying a lot of tokens. So let's see, let me go and look at the current situation. So if you look at it, already some of the whale supported block producers are going down, and as we are going above, so when we were below 30% voting, the situation was very different from what we have at 34% voting. And this is the 4% increase has created a big impact in keeping some of these good block producers in the top. And if you look at it, the total number of votes itself, which each of these block producers are getting, is very small. So that is why I think it will automatically take care of itself once the voting increases, and that's what I think is the most important, versus making some changes to make it mandatory for voting more than 15 or so on. All right, guys. So what else we have here? I think I'll spend another 10 minutes to take questions, and I think most of the stuff right now is going smoothly on the exchange, on the. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the blockchain. So this is actually a great thing. We have a lot of interesting apps coming in, so we will definitely do another video later on some interesting ideas which are coming out. And we do want to talk about dApps now, because I think that is the future. That is what is going to define how EOS takes off. And while we have a stable network, while we have a lot of, let's go to EOS networks if we can load it. It's a pretty heavy site, so let me see. So we have a lot of uh, tests already done. We have hit more than 3,000 transactions per second. So the peak has been 3,097, and Blocktivator is still continuing to stress the system. I hope the real apps will come in, and which can really make people participate in EOS, and we can see more and more accounts getting created. And I think that is something which is the most important part. When will we start getting paid for staking EOS? I see a question again here. So that depends on if the proposal is approved. Right now, it's just a proposal from Dan Larimer. It cannot be decided by him. It has to be a big change in, and it has to be voted on. I think so. I'm not really following the latest on this, whether this is serious enough to make a code change and give it to block producers. But I think at some point there will be a referendum on all these changes about how the EOS token economics plays out, and this is going to be a more of an election process. How many operational dApps are going to be running on EOS by January 2019? Oh, it's anybody's guess. I think um, it's impossible for me to guess that, because there are a lot of people who are developing. It is a very, very popular blockchain already, with the kind of visibility we are getting, with the kind of, means I interact with a lot of developer communities right now, and I see that there's a lot of excitement. um, but I think more than how many dApps will be running, it's more about how many quality dApps will be running. And we don't want a lot of apps which are not really adding value. We want apps which, definitely we want more apps, because that creates more people engaging with blockchain, and we need more transactions, real transactions, versus the spams. And that is something going to explode once there is a real world app which really makes a big difference. Like we I think Brandon Bloomer has already talked about putting something like Uber, something like Airbnb, or all these Facebook kind of social media apps. All these are very, very important use cases which are really useful in real world, and those kind of things take time because they are very complex systems to be built. And I don't know if it will happen by January or 2019, or whether it will happen by January 2020. But I think if those kind of apps really start coming on EOS today, that this is the only blockchain which can support that level of transactions with free transactions and so on. And I think somebody has to take the initiative, and I'm sure Block.one is going to work on it. Then there's a question about EOS DAC block producers. So I do like many people from EOS DAC. I think there's some very strong team members, and they are trying to build this decentralized community. They don't. They have a very, very interesting ideas. I think I interact with some of them on some projects now. We are going to be interacting. I do. I think they're pretty good team, and I do like what they're trying to do. But I think it takes time to build these kind of communities, and I think they're on the right track. So let's wait for them to come up with more and more ideas. But as a block producer, they are already doing well. There is no concern in terms of the quality, in terms of the disclosures, anything which we look at as a parameter for as a block producer. So we do like them, but of course, I think they are trying to do much more than being a block producer. And all of them, I think, all of the block producers at some stage, they have to start adding value beyond just being a mining pool or whatever you call it, in a depots kind of an environment. And that's why the concern is for some of these exchanges who have not shown any roadmap, any discussion around what they're doing. And Bitfinex is actually doing a lot of stuff. They are actually building EOS Finex, EOS based exchange. I saw some tweets from people that this prototype is already ready. So I think Bitfinex is one of the actually better whale supported block producer, which is being an exchange. We should not be biased while if they are doing good for EOS community. So they are doing a lot of stuff. Most of their stuff is open source. They are taking proxies from voters. They're doing a lot of good stuff. So I think this is not very simple to say in terms when you say the quality block producer, what criteria. I think it is very early days for us to start making judgments, because some of these block producers who we think are doing good, our original criteria is just the community involvement, being accessible, being open, because that is what you need in early days to build trust. But in longer run, I think the block producers will have to do a lot more to build some kind of quality support for community, building developer communities, and working in favor of the overall ecosystem. All right, guys, I think we are going to be running out of time now. So last one or two questions we will take quickly. What's the best site for airdrop calendar? I think airdrop calendars are not really up to date. Most of the information is, because you need to understand, when the DApps are airdropping, um, they have published their details maybe a long time back. They have not updated in the system. So most of them are actually stale information. So I would not point out to anyone, because it's not a fault of somebody creating a tool for it. We talked about a Horus Pay calendar, which was, I think, available as a calculator. This is actually done by one of the community members of Investing with a Difference. So if you add your account name, you can see your balances, and then I think they also have a link. So for example, I'm sure we don't have anything because we created this account after Genesis Snapshot. We search for, oh, we couldn't find this key, so this is why we cannot see this. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, if you enter some other account names, you will see a link in the end which shows you what other airdrops are coming. But I think overall, it's most of this is based on public information, and it's not easy to get updates from individual projects. Nobody can do that. It's up to the individual DApp to update people, and you need to track those yourself. Okay, so I think okay, there's another last question. So this is the last one we are taking. Why can't we have all EOS airdrops in one place? Instead, the airdrops are scattered all over the place. I think all the airdrops which really come to you, they are in your single account name. So for example, whatever is your account name, that has all your airdrops. So it's actually not scattered. And why it is, if you think they are scattered, that means the information, because you're talking about individual projects who are doing the airdrops. They are different teams. They have no value of working together. And this is all about each, like for example, when the Ethereum ERC20 coins are launched, ICOs are launched. If you're interested in a particular coin, you have to track it individually. I'm sure most of these projects have their own Telegram channels, their websites, so you can track them. It's not up to somebody. There's no single entity in a decentralized world. That's the whole object. You are looking for a centralized world where somebody gives you a ready-made information. You have to learn to do your own research to understand what you need to do. This is the whole point of decentralized world. Otherwise, okay, you can always rely on exchanges. Exchanges are like, if you put it on Binance, Binance is supporting certain airdrops, Bitfinex is supporting certain other airdrops. Of course, you will not get all the airdrops, but they will make it easy for you because everything will be in one place. And that is the advantage of centralized networks and centralized entities. So while it's easier to use centralized entities, I think in a decentralized world, which I think we're all fighting for, which we all believe in, you have to be a little more, you have to take a little more initiative, and you need to be owning your own information, and perhaps you need to build your own tools for it. So this is what the future looks like. If you are just an investor, I think the easiest way is to just keep your token on exchange, which we do not recommend. But that is a pure investment approach where you don't want to deal with all the complexities of blockchain, creating accounts. All that is handled by exchanges, and you are still relying on centralized entities while you are benefiting from the rest of the world, which is evolving on decentralized networks. So if you're only playing the economical part in it, if you're not really interested in taking part in this whole decentralized world, I think the easiest way is that. All right, guys, I think now we are really running out of time. So thanks all for joining. So for our channel, I think you keep liking our videos and do provide us feedback on what you want. For example, this video we created today for creating new accounts. This was a very common feedback from people. There are a lot of people who are looking for creating accounts when they don't have any EOS account. They had all their tokens on exchanges. There are a lot of people who are new to EOS, who never knew about EOS before the Genesis snapshot, and they are buying tokens now on exchanges. So please watch this video and take control of your tokens if you're interested in it. Remember, you need to learn a lot if you're doing this. If you're a newbie who is not interested in all the details of EOS, how to really set up accounts, you keep it at exchange, but remember, you will not be able to benefit from it because you cannot really use the D apps unless you have an EOS account. And once you watch this video and create your account, do watch our wallet video. So these two videos should automatically help you to become very functional on EOS blockchain as a newbie. And I hope more and more people join us, more and more people vote. Again, this wallet video also talks about voting, setting proxy, all those things. And this should be enough for you to participate in most of the ideas on EOS to send receive tokens yourself. And that we recommend everybody to do that. And thanks a lot for being a subscriber, for giving us feedback. A lot of people have given feedback on the quality of audio and so on. Please remember, guys, means we are all part-timers. We are not YouTubers which you watch with a studio and all that. Whatever resources we have, we try to spend some time on recording videos, and that's all we can do. I don't think any of us can really spend a lot of time to do high quality videos. It is all spontaneous. We don't prepare a script. I'm just going with the flow, and that's how we are trying to build a community. Maybe someday when we are able to spend all our energy into EOS, we will be much better from here. So please bear with us if you have challenges with the quality of the videos. But I think our goal is to share information, and I hope we are doing our job with that. So thanks again for joining, and thanks a lot for all the regular people who are here always and give us a lot of feedback and ask some really important questions and helping the community. Thanks. Bye for now. Talk to you next time.